I expect that most of you will have known of my bots for quite a few years. I've been around a while. You'll have probably never seen the first logo I ever made, which is this one. You might not be able to read it. It says, "I think, therefore I Mac," so you can tell what I was using, and that's a little tiny Macintosh. That's when it was running only on my computer. Then it went online as Jabberwacky way back in 1998, I think it was. And so Jabberwacky has, for most of that time, been pretty wacky, and it still quite often is. But it's learned a lot more over the years. It's learned what people say and when they say it, the context in which people say things, and it tries to reconstruct those contexts in its future conversations, saying to you what others have said to it in the past, matching fuzzily against a whole conversation, not just the last input thing said. So if you were to take a completely blank Jabberwacky, for example, and import those 6,000 lines of code into it, instead of constructing a set of rules that say that this way of saying "what is your name" is like that way, it would just fuzzily find, based on the one example, it would fuzzily find the nearest possible matching input at runtime, effectively in real time, as you put in your question. If that makes sense. More recently, along came Cleverbot about a year and a half ago, sharing data with Jabberwacky, but with a different, less ad hoc and fuzzier logic. It also has a better name and a clearer interface, and fortunately, thanks to Moore's law, better response times. The result has been quite dramatic for me, because the growth of Cleverbot has been enormously greater than Jabberwacky ever was in all those years. And I'm going to show you some figures now, because to me it's showing that what a bot can do, even if just purely a form of entertainment. Now, these figures, monthly figures, are I'm not trying to show off or anything, but it's to make that point of what a bot can be. This is a single character, of course, though Cleverbot is meant to be all things to all people. And probably these figures are no greater than an iGod or all of Pandora bots or whatever, and maybe inf as well. But my belief is that the market for conversation is nearly infinite. That there are millions more people around the world that will be talking to bots over the forthcoming few years. In that sense, we're not really competing with each other. The market is absolutely gigantic. And the people that come and talk to it keep coming back for more. The figure I find most striking on all of this is that across more than 1 million visitors, every one of them has stayed for more than 15 minutes, or on average, I mean. Which, of course, because some of them disappear immediately, just a relatively small number, but some of them do, it means that lots of people stay for literally hours. And another figure is that roughly 1% of the number of visitors, people that come, arrive more than 100 times a month, or about 3 times a day. And so those are figures from Google Analytics. Extra figures not shown there are that despite all the years of chatting online, more than half of the learned data, which is in the biggest table, is now 34 million rows, has been added in just last year, 2009 and 2010. And it could have been 10 times that at least, because now about 90%, used to be about 10%, and then it was 50%, and now it's 90% of everything everybody ever says is actually filtered out and not learned. So it's become ever more increasingly picky about what it chooses to learn from. And one of the biggest rules nowadays is it has thousands of little rules that tell it not to learn this, not to learn that. But it has a big rule that says After you've done all that, remove all the conversations that end up with only a small number of inputs. So the longer conversations inherently don't have many nasties in it, etc. Because they're not already being filtered, etc. And the people are willing to talk. And you end up with the nicest content. If I had learnt from all of the millions, the servers would have long ago exploded. So that's another reason. My habit when giving a presentation like this is to pepper it with conversation logs that what people have said to the program. But I'm breaking with that tradition today, so some of you will have seen that. I'm going to not do that, but do something rather similar, which is to show what people have said to me after they've been having the conversations. And I should stress before showing them that these are not what everybody says, and that all sorts of people say negative things, etc., for various reasons. One of them, for example, is that it's perfectly capable of being mean to people, and they object to that, etc. But so these are some of the nice ones, of course. But the point is, therefore, to make a few points about them. So the second line here, somebody who called it one of the most intelligent conversations I've had in my short life. That's not meant to be about the word intelligent. That's meant to be about the fact that for a lot of people, it's a way of communicating that they may just simply not have access to in their life. If they're a fish out of water, if they're a person who is different from those around them, then they can find someone to talk to that is interesting. And an important part of that is the way the program reflects what the user says. If you talk in a particular style or on a particular subject matter, it's likely to respond in kind, because it's learned from so many different people who are likely to have been people like you. I've already made the points in that third one about how much time people spend, but these last two, joking aside, show how real a companion a program can become. If they fall in love, of course, that's perhaps too real. Now, this only applies to a tiny proportion of people now, and is, of course, only marginally real, this kind of feedback. But within the next few years, emotional relationships with AI, I think, really are going to be happening to quite large numbers of people. It sounds like sci-fi, but I think it really is happening. Now, apologies for the long text. You don't have to read all of that, of course. But the point about this bit of feedback, and this was from one person, is that it's all about content. The sheer volume of that content allows it to do things that if I was creating it, it would just be impossible. Neither I nor an army of me's could create this sort of stuff. And that's why it learns from so many of them, the users. The web is full of memes, or ideas that transmit themselves, like genes. I don't know whether everyone knows that the terminology, but I like it. Basically, the things that people love saying to the program are the things that it does best. And most of these kinds of things, like this is madness, this is Sparta, you may never have heard of that, but that comes from some game or something, I don't even know where it comes from. Set song lyrics and so forth. It learns very well, and it learns, in an example of a song lyric, it's a good one because often you get a chorus and it gets repetitive, but it knows where the next verse starts because it's using a much deeper context than just the last thing said.